All right, so what's going on generally in the markets? I mean, we know the markets have been down, foreign interest has waned, retail investors staying away, but it just seems to be a slippery slide downwards.
It is a slippery slide downwards, and unfortunately there isn't too much news expected in the short term to brighten things up. However, in 2 weeks or so, in a fortnight or so, we think some results will start coming in for the first half of this year, and hopefully that will really spur things around, at least stop the slide that we currently are having on the markets.
I mean, the shilling back up above 90 shillings to the dollar. Dollar weakness, I think, has a lot to do with events in the United States and an impasse on the budget as opposed to the fundamentals of the shilling. But what's going on now? The CBK reducing the overnight rate, having raised it to 8% 2 weeks ago.
Well, what generally happened over the past fortnight is immediately the central bank raised the overnight borrowing rate a fortnight ago to 8% from 6.25%, which was the base central bank lending rate. What the other banks did was to say that now here's the central bank, we're now having to borrow at 8%, and in turn what happened is that the banks basically raised up their base lending rates to upwards of 15%. So the central bank now is coming in and saying that, well, maybe perhaps this might have been not the best of moves. So let's move back this overnight borrowing rate down to 6.25%, a decline of 175 basis points. But that aside, really on the central bank issue, they are really just absolutely concerned about the inflation rate, the higher costs of borrowing, which would really have had a terrible effect on the larger economy as a whole.
What sort of confusion does this introduce in the market? And I'm talking here about the renewed pressure on the shilling that we're seeing, because we've been told that the shilling's being driven by speculative trade, where people are buying dollars on the interbank market, the overnight market, the rates not matching the CBR rate, the overnight rate then having to be lifted up, issues of arbitrage. Do those sort of things persist?
Well, really, this is all a mixed bag for the markets as a whole in terms of getting the information out there and using the available information to arrive at fair values, say, of the shilling or of even other securities. Now, from the central bank perspective, by changing this overnight lending rate, what's expected is that hopefully the banks should actually cease in terms of borrowing so as to finance the other what the central bank is calling speculative moves, especially using the dollar and the euro. So the central bank really actually in their move today, they brought down this rate, but they have really put out a caution to the market that yes, we are bringing this down, but we are actually going to limit how much you could borrow. That is for the banks, how much they could borrow in terms of the overnight lending for a week. So this should really calm the markets, and we hope that it will really put the shilling on firmer footing.
First day for the British American Group's IPO. Shares trading at 9 shillings, about 650 million ordinary shares to be issued. What's the response been like?
To be honest, the market really hasn't been particularly excited by this share offering. However, it's too early to tell, but the market excitement really isn't an indication of how successful the offering is going to be. We are now having a lot of queries coming in for this share offer, and what the Johnny come lates are really beginning to realize is the very close holding between British American, Equity Bank and Housing Finance. So that really is a big issue, and as we wait and see for the prospectus to be more widely availed, this is going to be one of the issues that will be really one to look out for, and it will be the question on the streets.
I mean, talking about that tripartite alliance that you've referred to, we do know that although the market is down, Kenyan banks in general have performed very, very well, recording profits over 30% on average. So with British American looking to really extend its tentacles in the bank assurance industry, microinsurance industry, at a time when there's just so much appetite for banking products, particularly in the mortgage space, housing finances you're talking about, in the agrarian space through equity, isn't it a good play? Don't they have a good plan ahead?
Yes, I think they really do have a very good plan, especially if they're able to move together. That is the banking and the insurance and the mortgage sector in terms of retail sectoral exposure. If these three corporations are able to move together in the same direction, I think they would really get a lot of market share in their various fields. And actually, it is something that is viewed very positively by many, because in several issues the regulators are a bit behind in terms of really catching up and playing catch up with the rest of the market. Looking at the insurance sector, one of the things that is really out there moving now is takaful insurance and many other kind of social oriented products. So in terms of offering the product portfolio, if these three institutions are able to come in together, they really will spur the market, and the market share is all for grabs for them. That aside, on the issue of the very positive earnings that the banks have been releasing, it is true that indeed they have been quite positive. However, in periods of very high inflation, as analysts out there put it, many times the growth aspect is many times overstated because purely of the inflation factor.